Today we're going to review simplifying radicals, and we're also going to spend some time reviewing multiplying, polynomials, and factoring as well. So for simplify, we have the square root of 28. And so the square root means what number times itself is 28. And there's not a whole number. So then we go through this three-step process of simplifying the radical. So the first step is we think of what's the biggest square number we can divide 28 by. And we think of all the square numbers under 28. So for example, 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25. They are all below 28. So we're going to go through and divide 28 by each of these numbers and find the biggest one we can divide 28 by so we don't get a decimal. And that happens to be 4. So we're going to rewrite this as the square root of 4 times the square root of 7, which is 28. And remember to put the square number first, and then we can take the square root of that. The square root of 4 is 2. So we're going to write this as 2 square root of 7, and this is our simplified radical right here. Okay, let's do another one. So we have the square root of 108. Again, you go down your list, what's the biggest square number that you can divide 108 by? And I believe it is 36. So we're going to rewrite that with the 36 first. It's the square root of 36 times the square root of 3, because 36 times 3 is 108. And then the last step, the square root of 36, we find that square number, which is 6. And we leave the square root of 3 under the radical because we don't want any decimals. So let's practice with a few more right here. And then we're going to review multiplying and also factoring. Okay, so we have the square root of 98. So again, you think of all the square numbers under 98. So a bunch of them are listed right here. And we divide, and we find the biggest one we can divide 98 by. And I believe that that's 49. Yep, so this is the square root of 49 times the square root of 2, because 49 times 2 is 98. The square root of 49 is 7. So this simplifies to 7 square root of 2. Let's go over the square root of 48. Again, go down your list of square numbers. The biggest one we can divide 48 by is 16. So this is 16 times 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So we pull that out from the radical, and we get 4 square root of 3. We have 500. That's, let's change colors here. That is equal to 100 times 5. And the square root of 100 is 10. So we have 10 square root of 5. The next one, we have a number on the outside 2. Let's ignore that for first. So I'll pull the 2 outside. The biggest square number we can divide 18 by is 9. So this is square root of 9, square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3, so 3 square root of 2. But remember that 2 that we pulled out in front, it's being multiplied. So our final answer will multiply the 2 and the 3 together. We'll get 6 square root of 2. So we're going to take a quiz tomorrow, and you're going to have simplifying radicals on your quiz. We'll also have multiplying and factoring. So multiplying, you have to remember, is getting the inside of the box, or foiling. So here's what it looks like. X plus 5 means x plus 5 times x plus 5. And so if we use a box to multiply that out, this is the outside, and we're getting the inside. So here's what it looks like. X plus 5, x plus 5. X times x is x squared. 5 times x is 5x. X times 5 is 5x again. And 5 times 5 is 25. So we rewrite this with the highest power of x first, x squared. We can combine like terms. 5x plus 5x is 10x plus our 25. We can do the same thing if we have 3 terms. It's called a trinomial. We have x squared plus 4x plus 5. And we have our x minus 2. Again, let's put that in a rectangular box. And we have x squared times x is x to the third. 4x times x is 4x squared. 5 times x is 5x. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. 4x times negative 2 is negative 8x. And 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. When we rewrite it from the highest power down. So x cubed is the highest power of x. Combine like terms. So we have a negative 2x squared and a 4x squared. So that would be a 2x squared. Let's combine our x's. Negative 8 and 5 is a negative 3x. And then we have that negative 10 here at the end. And so here is our answer. So multiplying is when you have the outside and you're trying to get the inside, and you'll combine like terms. The last thing on our quiz will be factoring. And the first thing you should look for is, are they square numbers being subtracted? Because if they are, there's this pattern where you take the square root of each term. X squared, the square root of that is x. We'll put a plus and a minus. The square root of 9 is 3. Take a look at the next one. The square root of 4x squared is 2x. So we'll have 2x plus, 2x minus, and the square root of 36 is 6. And the last one, x squared minus 1, the square root of x squared is x. So x plus and x minus, the square root of 1 is 1. And again, you can only use this if they're being subtracted and both terms are square numbers. If they aren't, and there's two terms, then you can find a greatest common factor and divide that out. So if we take a look at the next one, we have our 3 and our 21. We can divide each of those by 3. We have an x squared and an x. We can divide each by an x. So let's divide each by a 3x. And we're going to write what's left. 3x squared divided by 3x is x. The x's cancel here, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. Okay, the next one we can divide each of these terms by a 2, it looks like. And when we do that, we'll get 6x squared plus 2x plus 3. And the last method is a box and circle. So if you can't pull the greatest common factor and you have 3 terms, we can use a box and circle to solve. So for the first one, we have our x squared minus x minus 42. So you have to remember, if you're factoring, you have the inside and you want the outside. If you're multiplying, you have the outside, you want the inside. So you have to remember like what order they go in. All right, so let's multiply our first and our last box. We want to know what multiplies to negative 42x squared. That adds to negative x, and that would be negative 7x and 6x. They multiply to negative 42. They add to negative 1. Now we get the outside the box. What multiplies to x squared? That's x and x. X times negative 7 is negative 7x. X times 6 is 6x. So the factored form in either order is x minus 7, x plus 6. Let's try this last one over here. Put it in our box and circle, 2x squared, 7x, and 3. We want to know what multiplies to the first and the last box. So it multiplies to 6x squared. That adds to 7x. And that would be a 1x and a 6x. They multiply to 6x squared and add to 7. So now we get the outside of the box. Let's use blue. What multiplies to 2x squared? Well, that would be 2x and x. Let's put the 2x on top because I know that 2x times 3 is 6x. If I would have put the 2x here, it would have been hard to get the 1x. So let's put x here. X times 1 is 1x. So here's the factored form in either order. 2x plus 1, x plus 3. So today in class we'll practice factoring and also multiplying and simplifying the radical.